Okay, Jamie, as tiny as this little tail is, I want you to give me the tiniest details of how you soak your beans and what you do with them.
You want my tail of beans?
Yes, I would love your tail of beans.
Well, it's a tail of many beans. Beans are something that we use a lot in our house, and digestion is something that's important in our house. We have some health issues that require soaking, and so this is something that happens often at my house. I purchase specific bowls, and I have designated places for this to happen, so this is very important. In our home, we take dry beans. This is something that I buy in bulk, so I get the best price. And I'm able to pick out exactly what I want. And I keep those in storage, and then I take those beans and I put them in water. I just pour water over the top of them. I have a large bowl here.
Just your well water?
And I just take my well water and I cover it. And then I let it sit. And it does its magic because, of course, a bean is a seed. And so it wants to be a plant. And so as it sits there, it's soaking in the water and it's becoming a mini plant. And if you look at some of these real closely, they have little tails that are beginning to happen. And what happens is when those tails are there, that tells me that that bean is no longer a starch. That bean is beginning to be a plant. And that reduces the amount of starch in the bean. And that's how I know that it's ready for me to cook it. And as I said, beans are something that we eat a whole lot of. And so different things that we eat in our home, refried beans is something that we eat a lot of. And this we do the very same process. I just use pinto beans when I do that. Black beans is another staple.
Same process.
Exact same process.
Do it until the tails appear.
Do it until it's got tails. Now, for whatever reason, the black beans in my house take a little bit longer. And so this is something that I will soak for 24 hours. I'll check to see if the liquid has made any changes. If it doesn't look good anymore, I rinse it, re-put water to the top, and do it again. And we watch for tails. Recently, I made some black-eyed peas, which never did tail. Had I not been soaking this, had I not known about this process, I wouldn't have known that I had a bag of bad black-eyed peas.
So if they don't tail out after
if they're floating,
you're telling me that they're bad.
I'm telling you they're bad.
So that's a good way to determine that.
And I tossed them.
Okay.
And then another thing that we eat a lot of is hummus. Now, most people use garbanzo beans, exact same process. In my house, we use navy beans in order to make hummus. But these are three of the things that we make a lot. And in all of those things, I use bell peppers. And so bell peppers in the wintertime are very expensive. And so during the summertime, I purchase them in quantity. And I roast them. And I turn them into...
You roast them in mat, and then you mash them, and you put them in a container to freeze.
And then all winter long, when I'm making chilies and black bean dishes and refried beans or hummus, I have that there because it's a staple in our diet.
Well, that's deliberate sourcing, that's deliberate gardening, that's deliberate preparation, and then it becomes deliberate on their table.
Well, these things take time. And so if they're going to take time, you could put a little thought into them. And after you've done this for a number of years, it's something that just comes as first nature. But initially, it takes some planning.
So how often does your family eat a bean dish in a week?
Well, it depends, but quite a bit. Quite a bit. I'd say at least once a week, if not more than that.
Okay.
And it's not necessarily a bean dish exclusively.
Right.
There's dishes, minestrone.
Snacks. Yeah, snacks as well.
Snacks is part of it. Minestrone, chili, things that just include some beans in them. And so many times when I do that, I'll put them in the freezer. Because if my chili requires 3 beans, I don't want to have that many beans going on at once. I put them in the freezer and then I could use them. But you do something with your beans that I do not do, so I want you to tell me about that.
Yeah, at some point in the process I found that it was just too difficult for me to soak the beans every time I wanted some. So what I did is I soak a grand bunch of beans. I buy my beans like Jamie, I buy them in bulk, and then I might put 1 or 2 gallons to soak in water, wait for the tails to appear, and instead of cooking them then, I put them in a canning jar and pressure can them. So I have sitting on my shelf the only soaked pinto bean in my side of the world, I think. I don't know
I have
anybody
never
else.
seen it in the store.
You haven't? Okay.
I have never.
Yeah, so they've been soaked. Their digestion is ready, where it's ready for us to consume. And I don't have to go through the planning of the soaking process. This just becomes a real convenience food for me. I use it the same way Jamie does in soups, refried beans, and I do the same for chickpeas so that I always have a quart of chickpeas to go into my hummus.
Nice. little pre-planning.